big is his hole?
The average age is 49 years old. Okay, Boomer.
Young and the vibrant versus the old and the boring.
Yes, well, tonight on The Whip with me, Wallace Chapman, your weekly half-hour injection in politics. Untreated wastewater spewing into the sea in Wellington. The fix could take months, that in a moment. And 165,000 people are without work right now, highest for some time. Is the right direction just round the corner? The Prime Minister at Waitangi and Victoria, Tasmania, New Zealand. Should we become the seventh state of Australia? With me this evening, Andrea Vance, National Affairs Editor at The Post. Andrea, kia ora, great to have you here.
Kia ora, Wallace, how are you? Nice to talk this year.
Oh, it's great to talk. Happy 2026. And Maria Slade here with me in Auckland, Property Editor, Business Desk. Welcome, Maria.
Kia ora.
And none other than Christopher Finlayson, co-host of podcast Cross Party Lines, former treaty negotiator minister. Chris, nice to have you on the program.
Nice to be here. I note yet again I'm always the last to be introduced.
Well, that's because I was thinking I was going to ask you your favourite ever Australian band, but then I thought maybe that's not a good thing to do.
No, I wouldn't ask you that at all.
No,
actually.
exactly. So anyway, that is tonight's whip. But first, our whip listener quiz, and it is going back a bit, so you may or may not get it. It might be a bit tough actually, but what New Zealand Prime Minister called a US president a peanut farmer from Georgia? Who was it? Text me 2101. But to this first, 165,000 people.
I know the answer.
Well, do you?
Yeah.
Play the game tonight, Chris. Don't say it. Don't say it. It's for the listeners. But if they can't
Can
get
I say
it,
that he always looked as though, according to one Labour leader, as though he had swallowed the contents of a Hawke's Bay orchard?
there you go. So a supplementary from the former Attorney General there, 2101. What do you think? Anyway, to the panel, 165,000 people are without work right now. That is the latest figure from Stats NZ. The unemployment rate nudged up a point in the last quarter to 5.4%. Labour leader Chris Hipkins leapt at the opportunity to criticise the current government.
There are 32,000 fewer jobs today than there were when Nicola Willis became the Minister of Finance. It's about time she stopped living in denial and started to accept responsibility for the consequences of her decisions.
Well, some economists say it's not as bad as the numbers make it look. Maria, business expert here, we keep thinking things are about to turn around for the economy. What's your assessment of this result, if anything?
They are figures of two halves, because the other sort of side to it is that employment actually grew. It grew 0.5%. That's quarter on quarter, so, over a short period. But that was stronger than expected. And a lot of economic commentators are saying, well, the thing is that labour statistics lag the economic indicators, and that probably this is an indication that in the second half of this year, we will see unemployment starting to go down, because we've got participation's gone up a bit and employment rose a bit and we had more people, and so it kind of evened itself out. So the actual rise in unemployment is not quite as bad as it looks.
Chris, a piece in the Post said it's not that the figures are bad, it is that they are not that great. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I approach it from a political point of view and say this, that John Key always used to say to us, you can blame the other lot for the first 3 years, but the window of blame, as I apprehend it in New Zealand, has closed. And so after 18 months, the current government has to answer for unemployment, the GDP figures, the inflation figures, because they are the matters that will concern the average voter in the period coming up to 7 November. So I think the window of opportunity to slag off the other side has closed somewhat, as I say, to about 18 months.
Yeah.
And so Nicola Willis has to answer for these changes.
I'm just looking actually, the other issue, Andrea, is that, as one person said with Waitangi just around the corner, it is worth reflecting on the fact that, Māori unemployment does continue to be a concern. So what you got here is Māori unemployment on 11.2%. That's more than twice the national average. So with that lens, it's something to think about.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shocker politically, because we're heading into an election that is going to be fought on economic management and competence, and that's a really bad way to kick it off. You can bet that it was raised at the iwi leaders meeting this afternoon at Waitangi. Economists can frame it as a blip. They can say recovery's on the way, but it doesn't really matter in an election campaign. What matters is how people feel. And if they don't feel this economic recovery, if they feel like there's no hope for their kids to be able to find jobs and they're heading off to Australia, then that's the way that people are going to vote. They're not going to vote on the numbers. They're going to vote on the future of their kids and how they feel, and that's what's going to shape the voting behaviour. Even small quarterly shifts can undermine the narrative of recovery and competence. And if the people feel this squeeze on the cost of living pressures continuing into later in the year, it's going to be really hard for them to sell the idea that things are on the mend.
And that's important, isn't it, Maria? Selling the idea. Keep on saying to the constituency, hold tight.
That's right. I think Andrew's absolutely right. It is a sentiment thing. The economists can talk all they like about, splitting the statistics this way and that. I'm talking to some Westpac economists at a do last night, and they are cautiously optimistic about the economy turning the corner this year. We do seem to have seen the worst. But I don't know how you explain that to a person in Northland who's without a job. It is a sentiment thing.
And Chris, clearly National will be feeling it. They'll be hearing that. They'll be hearing that confidence at the business breakfasts, and then they might be on the ground in the likes of Matamata or Te Awamutu and seeing something else.
Yeah, I would have thought that the MPs who are gearing up for campaigns on the ground are starting to hear some real concerns. That figure of people going to Australia is quite a telling one, as Maria said. I think that the message in the community is that these are issues which they promised they would address. Have they addressed them? And the old sort of clarion call of tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, it's coming tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, doesn't wash anymore.
It's a doom loop, though, isn't it? Because the government's relying on people feeling confident that when their money starts to come off their mortgages, this so-called fabled Fonterra payout that's coming, that people are going to start spending money. But if people don't have confidence and feel like their jobs are secure, they're going to start paying down debt. They're going to put money away for a rainy day. They're not going to go out and spend on home renos and garden furniture and all that kind of stuff. So it like I say, it's kind of a doom loop.
Yeah, it's a feeling thing, and in a period leading up to an election, objectivity is one thing, but those feelings are things that do matter.
Mind you, you just watch the sales of ute spike once that Lactalis money starts flowing into the rural
those
sectors.
damn Ford Challengers that get up behind you, they think they're kings of the road.
Well, that's a whole other panel, Chris, but you are right. Now, it is 19 to 8. Now to this, though, an absolute blight on the capital, right? Heavy rain overnight caused a flood at Moore Point Wastewater Treatment Plant, which is sending, as you heard on Checkpoint, 70 million litres of sewage per day into the sea. Here's what Mayor Andrew Little had to say earlier on the panel.
Of course, it's never acceptable in any city, anywhere, for a wastewater treatment to be broken. But ours is. The backup measure is, at the moment, sending untreated sewage into the sea and at pretty close range to the coast until we can get it pumped out to further offshore. There's going to be a risk on those south coast beaches.
It's today's big story. The fault could take 2 months to repair. So we have two proud Wellingtonians on the whip tonight.
Do we?
Well, I would have thought so, right? No?
And one ex-Wellingtonian, actually.
Maybe I should start with you first, Maria. No, I'm going to start with you, Andrea, first. How has the city ended up here? What's your take on this?
Well, it's honestly just heartbreaking. I do a lot of reporting on ocean policy and marine conservation, so I always get really moved when there's stories about pollution, marine pollution like this. And just the idea of untreated sewage being discharged into the beach. It's like Lyell Bay is going to be out of action for surfing and swimming for months. I mean, it's just horrendous, not to mention all the damage to ocean life. But I think I'd like to make the point that like, this is not just Wellington. How many times have we seen this over recent years? You know, we had the closures of Auckland beaches this summer already. We've had the cryptosporidium outbreaking in Queenstown a couple of summers ago, and then the failure of the treatment plant now where they're sending treated effluent into the Shotover River, one of our most iconic waterways. And at the same time, the government is pushing for rapid growth and more housing. And I just wonder, at what point are we going to try and get this right? You know, Wellington's wastewater treatment is now 30 to 40 years, decades behind where it should be. That's what Wellington Water's boss said today. So when do we start to realise that our infrastructure can't keep up with all this growth? And we've got to stop kind of penalising people who are raising legitimate concerns. They get called NIMBYs, but actually they're seeing ever more congested roads. They're seeing these basic sewage treatment plants breaking down. We do have to have a proper conversation about how our infrastructure is going to keep up.
Chris Finlayson, yet another saga, and a big one in the long list of Wellington woes. Your thoughts?
Oh, very disappointing, but I think that what's happening is the perfect metaphor for Wellington Water, because everything they touch goes that way. Just let me give you an example on my own street. There was a Toby that was leaking for weeks, and I rang them and said, well, this has got to be fixed. Oh, well, it's on our list of things to be done. And I said, well, so much water's leaking out, I'll pay and I'll get a plumber to fix it. No, you can't touch it. And so everything they touch goes that way. And frankly, there comes a time when there are no more excuses to be proffered. And I hope that Andrew and the other people around the councils in Wellington will say, look, enough is enough. These people have to perform or else they have to go. There are no more excuses to be offered. Wellington Water is a symbol of failure.
Okay, before we come to you, Maria, I'm just going to read this out because it could be fairly important. We had a marine scientist on the panel this evening. He's just been listening and he's just emailed me. One thing I noticed was not mentioned, Wallace, is the risk to human health away from beaches. There is good evidence that raw sewage discharges into coastal waters are aerosolized in sea spray and carried inland, carrying with them virus and bacteria that cause respiratory and gastric issues, potentially an issue in somewhere like Wellington with strong southerly winds carrying bugs across parts of the city. So Professor Jeffs has just emailed me that marine scientist. Maria, ex-Wellingtonian.
Oh, it's a bit of a disaster. I used to live in Lyell Bay and go down there practically
so you know
every day.
Yeah, right.
So know it well. Yes, it's such a shame. It's just terrible, especially in the summertime. And it is. It's obviously a catastrophic failure of investment in upgrading facilities. And of course, Auckland has its problems too. But all this money is being poured into the Central Interceptor, which they say will go a long way to solving the problems that we have whenever there's a massive storm or something and all the excess stormwater gets washed into the harbours and we can't swim in the beaches. You know, as Andrew mentioned, that happens on a relatively regular basis and you have to watch the Safe Swim website and so on. But yeah, this lack of investment in infrastructure is one of the big problems. And Chris Bishop wants to flood Auckland with looser planning laws on a free market basis. That if you just throw up heaps of houses and give developers heaps of options, that'll bring the price of housing down. But a lot of the developers I talk to say, well, that's just not even really. I mean, okay, sure, maybe, but you've still got to have the infrastructure, and that is very expensive. And he's wanting to allow 15-storey apartment buildings, which, well, no one's built that to that level in the suburbs yet anyway. And Aucklanders or New Zealanders don't really want to live in those facilities, but that's another matter. But the point that a developer made to me was that no one's got the money to come along and spend the amount that it would cost to put in the necessary infrastructure to provide for such a tall residential development. There's just a whole set of other issues going on there.
But it is true it's an intergenerational problem that successive councils in Wellington have concentrated on conference centres and street races and rubbish like that instead of concentrating on the fundamentals. And we poor Wellingtonians, are the recipients of generations of negligence. And so it's. I don't Andrew's just a couple of months into his term, so there is no blame to be directed in his direction, but I am sure that he and some of the new mayors around the place are going to do something about it. So generally speaking, I'm positive about the future, but your question was directing us to a lament about the present.
Very good. Chris Finlayson, Maria Slade, Andrea Vance this evening on the Whip, 12 away from 8. Now, politicians are pouring into the upper North Island lead up to Waitangi, which has already provided plenty of talking points, including the sudden resignation of Labour MP Penny Henare. Prime Minister Christopher Luxon scheduled his visit ahead of the actual day. Today he met with iwi Chairs Forum, and here's what he and Nicola Willis had to say about it.
Well, what I say is it's direct, right? But we're direct too.
They're asking questions.
Yeah, asking
They
questions.
were positive, constructive questions delivered with very good intent, which we were able to address. And I think there was a meeting of minds on many issues.
There's plenty more to go down. Now, Chris, will start with you as former Treaty Negotiations Minister. What do you think? How is Christopher Luxon playing Waitangi this year?
Just a question to start. Did anyone throw a dildo at him? Because poor old Joyce got a dildo thrown at him a couple of years ago.
Oh, Waitangi Classic.
The Waitangi Classic, that's right. We covered that on the...
Don Brash had mud thrown at him.
Yeah.
And it always used to be the most terrifying thing of all, reminiscent of Cathy holding Heathcliff and Wuthering Heights for Titify to grab hold of your hand and you couldn't get away from her. So it really is a ghastly experience to go up there. And it was something to endure. And I always breathed a sigh of relief when you could leave. Inevitably, you had to leave by car because the airport never works at Kaiteritiri. It's a bit like Rotorua. So all I can say is good luck to them. I rejoiced the day Wayne Eagleson, Key's Chief of Staff, phoned me and said, "Oh, John's not going to Waitangi. He's decided to go to somewhere else." And I said, "Great, I'm off to see Ngāi Tahu in Christchurch." And it was a fabulous day in on Banks Peninsula, and at the end of the Waitangi Day part of it, Leanne Dalziel was the mayor, and there was a beautiful citizenship ceremony when a whole lot of people became New Zealanders. So I actually think the true spirit of the treaty is manifested in places other than Waitangi.
Well, that's interesting, Andrea.
Well, I thought what I was going to say was going to be controversial, but Chris has thrown down the gauntlet. I wonder, to go to Chris's point, I wonder if Luxon should have gone to Waitangi this year. Not because I don't think Prime Minister should go, but the treaty negotiation bill has just done so much damage to Crown Maori relationships, and I don't think that he has a credible story to tell.
Principles bill.
What did I say? Treaty negotiation. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Oh, don't be a pedant.
Sorry.
No, I'm just...
and in the presence of Chris Finlayson as well. How embarrassing. Oh, my God. Okay, my point's ticking off for that. Yes, treaty principles. I don't know if he has a credible story to tell Maori about the economic recovery, as we discussed with the employment figures. I don't think he can point to policies that have delivered.
But isn't he putting a distance between that principles bill and his presence? I mean, that's the point.
But I don't think that I don't think that he has the depth of historical knowledge. I'm sorry, but I just don't think he does to properly acknowledge the harm that that his government has caused to the relationship. I think he's walking into a situation where he's just going to annoy people, while the rest of the country just enjoys a summer's day off, because most people don't pay attention to what's going on in Waitangi. So I think it's not a moment where he can score points. It's a symbolic visit at best, and I think he's risking reinforcing the sense that he's out of touch and that he's tone deaf. He's not going to win any hearts up there, and I don't think he gains any credibility with the wider public. Okay, interesting. So, Andrea Vance there. Maria, what do you make of it?
I think it's very polite of the iwi leaders to have him after the term that we've had. You know, the Treaty Principles Bill was disgraceful. I think it's better that he goes than not go. You know, you've got to at least have the discussion. You've got to at least have the lines of communication open. But yes, I agree. He's not going to be a flavour of the month up there.
Okay. I have to mention this, a quick mention, Chris Finlayson, Labour MP Penny Henare, trying to quietly announce his retirement from politics. This came pretty suddenly. Now Shane Jones claiming there's more to the story. Any thoughts around this, Chris?
Penny is one of the great leaders of Ngāpuhi, and I said in the House years ago that if there is one person who could go north as a great son of that iwi and help sort it out, it's Penny Henare. Now, he's had a distinguished career in Parliament over 12 years. He's obviously, as I did, reached a conclusion, time to move on. But I certainly am looking forward to the next stage of his career because, as I say, if someone can do some real good with Ngāpuhi, it's that guy. So Shane is just playing his stupid little political New Zealand first game. I'm not too fussed about it. You think he's going to jump to New Zealand first?
No, I don't think that. But I think, let's be honest, we all know politicians. He's leaving in a couple of weeks' time. If he had stayed put, he would have been, paid almost a year's salary in the job. And, leaving now with all these questions asked, he that story derailed the unifying press conference that the Greens and Labour had at Waitangi. It was a very messy situation yesterday. I think there are definitely unanswered questions, and there's a bit more to that story than perhaps we've heard. It'll come out. You will find out the truth eventually.
Interesting.
But I do think you've got to give it to the Labour Party. When they want to move people on, by hell, they move people on. I don't know what happened with Adrian, but, he was a guy who was actually a very good speaker, but clearly he had made a decision to go, and he was shown the door quicker than he probably thought. So they don't muck around.
It's renewal, Chris. It's renewal.
We all need that, don't we? All right, 7 away from 8. Now, Chris Finlayson, keep that mouth closed just for now, because we've got a guest on the line. So here we go. What New Zealand Prime Minister called a US president a peanut farmer from Georgia? With us on the line, David. Welcome to the program, David.
Yeah, thanks, Wallace. Good to be on with you.
How are you this evening?
Yeah, no, I'm very well. I heard the show when I was a teenager in the 1970s, so it all came back to me.
Okay, so who was that New Zealand Prime Minister?
That was Rob Muldoon.
Is he right, Chris? Chris?
Yes, Jimmy Carter was president of the United States from 1977 to 1981 and overlapped entirely with Muldoon, and Muldoon made that stupid remark and also about Billy Carter, as a consequence of which he didn't get an invitation to the White House.
David?
Well, I recall, whether it was a stupid comment, it was true. Jimmy Carter had been a peanut farmer.
Well, he was a peanut farmer.
He was a peanut farmer, but he also turned into one of the greatest American presidents, and incredibly young. He only spent one term, which was right in the middle of Piggy Muldoon's term. And, of course, he only died last year at the age of 100, and he clung on. Despite melanoma and fault, he clung on long enough just so that he could vote against Donald Trump in the last election. He was 100 years old when he died. But what I don't know, and others might be able to help me with, is what had he done to offend Muldoon much to have him be described that way?
Very good question, because it was quite a dismissive comment at the time. I can recall that. Gosh, you're a mine of information tonight, David. But we'll leave it there, and thanks for your time.
So knows what prompted Waitangi Muldoon away with that comment. It was true, but obviously demeaning in the context of an American president who, was battling the Iran crisis and all sorts of things. Thanks, guys.
Good on you. Nice to have you on the program now, finally on the show. Here's an idea put forward by pollster and occasional panellist David Farrar. Why shouldn't New Zealand join Australia as its seventh state? Here is David Farrar laying out some of the upsides.
10 years ago, this would not be my view. I love us being independent. I love everything about New Zealand. But us and Australia combined, the 11th largest economy, a defence force half the size of the United Kingdom, and, culturally, of course, and economically, we're highly integrated already.
And on top of that, we get to claim cold chisel and AC/DC, Maria Slade, yes or no to joining Australia? Imagine, $3 trillion economy, yes or no?
It'll never happen. I mean, in practical terms, how would we make it happen? Would we have a referendum? We couldn't even choose a new flag in a referendum. Can you imagine the argy-bargy there would be over, becoming the next Tasmania?
Andrea Vance.
Well, I mean, as a non-Kiwi, I feel like I'm wandering into dangerous territory here, but I would really welcome an end to the endless Pavlova flat white who owns it discussion. Farlap, that would be, I would welcome that. But David, I think, excellent op-ed. I love the idea of generating big ideas, especially in an election year. He's talking about New Zealand defending its interests in a world where the rules-based order is kind of unravelling, which is it's a rational response to our structural vulnerabilities. But that's not patriotism and identity. They're all matters of the heart, right? And the All Blacks, you're never gonna. It's just never it's never gonna happen.
That'd be ring fence. Chris Finlayson, should New Zealand join Australia?
Look, David Farrar, whom I call Frodo, is one of my dearest friends, and I love him to bits. But I agree. It was a well constructed op-ed
in the Post, by the way. In the Post.
Right. Unfortunately, it was utter rubbish because this debate was had and decided in 1901 when the Commonwealth of Australia was formed. We can be very good friends with our mates over the ditch, but we don't need to join them. So what possessed David to write that article? I do not know.
1901 was quite a long time ago. We can revisit these things.
We can.
No, Frodo
not
should stick
everyone
to his
even
knitting.
had the vote back in those days.
Excellent point.
Well, you never know. I mean, you could be sitting on a beach in Bondi, Chris Finlayson, drinking a quiet Tui's and enjoying some Australian culture.
Yeah, Pauline Hanson could be our Prime Minister.
But there would be no poo in the sea, would there? Because they've got good infrastructure.
And Peter Dutton could lead the Liberal Party. God almighty, let's leave Australian politicians on that side of the ditch. Thanks so much.
The ideas coming out now. What a wonderful panel you've all been with. Maria Slade, Andrea Vance, Chris Finlayson.
See, always the third.
Yeah, no, look, actually you are.
Number one in our hearts, Chris. Number one in our hearts.
Thank you, Andrea. All right, see you guys later.
See you.